class. Today we're going to be going over some basic interactions that you can use for your next project, which will be the medieval project. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is start out with some sound. It really adds a lot to your scene and is pretty easy to do. So the first thing that you need to do is simply import some sound files into Unreal. I've already got some in here. Now Unreal can be kind of picky about the files that it will take. It will definitely take 16-bit WAV files. So others can be problematic. I've had it reject like 8-bit WAV files. So pay attention to that. Okay, so I want to add some sound here on in my scene when the player starts. And this sound I want to just be playing the whole time. So what I'm going to do is I just take my sound and I can just drag it out onto my scene. Okay, so if I click on the sound, you can see I do have in the details some settings that I can change, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave everything the way that it is now. And let's go ahead and play. So what you can hear is that I have sound playing ambiently throughout the whole world. Okay, but what if I want my sound to play not as soon as the scene loads, but when my player moves across a trigger, right? So that is also very easy. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the sound that I put there before, and we're going to make a trigger that when the player walks over it, we're going to play a sound file. So what we want to do is go over right into, onto my left, which is the modes. And I'm going to search for trigger. And you can see you get a couple of options here. I'm just going to drag out a box trigger, which is just a plain old square. Then I'm going to resize it so to make sure that I trigger it when I walk up to this sculpture-y thing. Okay, so I have my trigger there. Now I need to attach some script to it so that when the player character moves over it, something happens. So this is pretty easy. All I do is select my trigger in the scene, then I right-click on it, and I get a menu pop up. I want to go to Add Event, and here I can add a number of already, built-in functionality that's present in Unreal. And what I want to select is On Actor Begin Overlap. That is when the player character overlaps this trigger, I want it to do something. So I'm going to click on that. What it's done is it's opened up my level blueprint. Okay, so when you get into more advanced topics, you should try to never use the level blueprint or as rarely as possible. But for our purposes and when you're just starting out, it's absolutely fine. So if you can see here, here's my trigger, and I've opened the blueprint for this entire level, which you can also access from this menu, Blueprints, drop down, Open Level Blueprint, okay? All right, so and now I've got this On Actor Begin Overlap. All right, so the trigger box, I want it to do something. So I move my mouse, left click and drag out and let go. And I get a menu that I can search from, right? So I know I want it to play sound. So I just type in the word play and I get a bunch of different options. So it doesn't really, what I'm gonna do is play sound at the location because I want it to be played at the trigger box, not somewhere else over the whole world or whatever. And there are ways you can manipulate that sound, but that's a little more advanced for us. Okay, so I've got set up a node for when we overlap the trigger box, we're going to play a sound at location. Now I need to select the sound. So here where it says sound, there's a drop down arrow. I can click and I'm going to search for something that you will definitely hear. It's kind of an annoying cue. These are kind of random sounds, so you'll definitely hear them so you can see what I'm saying. Okay. All right, so now when I hit play, there's no sound because I took away that sound cue, so right now I don't have any. So I'm gonna walk, and I know that trigger is right up here, right? So
stay on the path. Stay on the path.
Okay, so what happens is I triggered it and it played.
Stay on the path. Stay on the path.
And so every time I hit that trigger box, it's going to execute that node. So if you only want it to happen once, if you don't want to just keep playing over and over, super easy thing you can do, you can drag out here, do once. Okay, make sure you compile it and you can save it for good measure if you like. No, I probably shouldn't do that. There's probably a big level. Okay, so now let's go back and walk towards my trigger.
Stay on the path. Stay on the path.
So my sound is executed once. Now when I go back, it shouldn't play again. There you go. Now, just to wrap up this little segment, you see how I have this gun in the hands, and you may not want to have a gun in hands in your medieval setting. So, super easy way to get rid of this. I'm going to escape out of my playthrough. I'm going to go to my content browser. Now, you will have a first-person blueprints folder or third person, depending on which template you used. If you open that, there's a blueprints folder. Double click on that to open it. And here's a first person character. So this is the pawn that you're playing. So if I double click on that, it opens the blueprint editor for the first person character. All right, so I'm not going to mess with anything you can tweak these if you want to. But what I'm going to do is we're just going to, here you see these mesh, and I don't want to see them anymore. So I am going to click on the gun. So here on the left, you can see these are all the things that are all the components that are part of our first person character. Like here's our camera. You can move that up and down if you want, okay? So what I want to do is I want the gun to be invisible when we play. So I'm going to click on the gun. Then I'm going to go into the details panel, which in my case is on the right. And I'm going to look for the rendering tab right here, rendering. So visible is visible here, so I could hide that, right, and make it invisible. But I don't care. I want it visible within my editing environment. I do want it to be hidden in the game. So I'm going to check that box. The other thing I'm going to do just for good measure is the arm mesh, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. So I go to the rendering tab and the details, and I'm going to make it hidden in the game. I'm going to compile it, save it. Now, hopefully, when I play this, we'll have just a standard first person where I can't see any hands or anything. So, yep, as you can see, my gun and robot arms are now gone.
Stay on the path. Stay on the path.